Hi, these are your Jesse Mack, not one word or less comic reviews for the entirety of 2020. The garbage year. Now, the comics to my right, well, they're my left, but to the right of the screen, are my top 10 comics for November and December, which I realized it was a burden to keep making these reviews. The views aren't there. I'm sorry for anybody who was enjoying them, but unfortunately, there weren't many of you left. So I'm not going to be doing them again for a bit. And this way I can concentrate on other garbage. As you may have noticed, I'm going to be rolling out a major video project over the next 15 months or so. And hopefully that can also be a winner. But let me get into the right place for this. All right. So, yeah, I have other personal projects. I want to work on music more this year. I've got this dumb video thing I'm doing, which hopefully the games are enjoyable to watch. It turns out I kind of like rambling after all of this nonsense. So I hope you follow me along on this journey. If not, let's go out with a bang. And I'll probably keep on top of what I thought about comics throughout the next year, so I can do another one of these at the end of the year, if absolutely nothing else. Let's see. My number 10 comic just came out. I feel like it just came out. It came out right at the end of the year. And that is Locke and Key in Pale Battalions Go number 3. Which, man, I didn't know there was going to be more Locke and Key this year. I remember hearing about it, like, last year probably? Don't know how the pandemic might have gotten in the way, but, like, it just felt like it was coming out sometime in the future, and then all of a sudden I saw number 2 on the shelf, and I'm like, wait, what the heck happened there? So, had to do a little bit of catching up. I feel like this was a decent story, this like little 3-issue tale, but the last third of this book was heart-wrenching in a way that not many books, like Lock and Key hits emotional buttons in a very particular way. Like, it has a mode at which it hits me emotionally, and it turns out Joe Hill and Gabby Rodriguez still have that ability to punch me in the gut, even with this shorter fare. So, I know that the Sandman crossover is coming up pretty soon, and oh man, I'm looking forward to that. I'm a little scared that it's just going to be a wicked mess, but it's a mess worth trying to see if we can do what we can do. It's going to be fun. All right, my number 9 book was Marauders number 6. Marauders, outside of the like main X-Men book, like pretty much Hickman, I love the way Hickman writes a massive story where it's just, I'm going to build a whole world out of pieces you already knew and then just live in it and tell like very interesting stories in it. Hickman is like a god at that. But outside of the main X-Men stuff and the larger story, my favorite thing about the X-Men books since they relaunched was the story of Kate Pryde. And this was the linchpin of that story, in which she dies. She is murdered terribly, and it hit me like bricks. And it's like, okay, she'll be back. That's sort of the whole thing with the X-Men, is that they come back now. Even though it was uncertain, but it created a wonderful villain. The issue that just came out this last month, in which she got her revenge on her attacker, was delightful. And I think if I did a top 20, it might have made its way on there. It was just so good. But just the emotional pain. I think this book was very good, but then was also buoyed by how good her return has been and how strong and just mean she is. It's just been wonderful. So, I love me some Marauders, as it turns out. Just funny, because like I usually buy books mostly based on whether or not I like the writer. I don't really follow characters, I follow writers. And to a lesser extent, artists. There are some artists where it's like, gotta read that. Like, what's his name's on it? I can't remember any names now. David Aja? Aha? I don't know how you say his name, but the guy who did Hawkeye with Fraction a few years ago. Like, that guy, wonderful. I'm getting sidetracked. It's kind of what I do. But I don't know Duggan's work, and whenever I've read his work before, it hasn't struck me. Marauders has been real good. So, recommend. Alright, Deadly Class. Let's see, which one was this? Because I have a few Deadly Classes on here. Is this the very last one? Yes. Deadly Class is one of those books that it's very good. Generally, it's good in its down moments, but when it takes its slow climb to the top of the roller coaster and speeds down, very few books can keep up with that level of frantic, emotionally gut-wrenching, deadly action. No pun intended. And yeah, Bone Machine has been a very nothing will ever be the same kind of story. Even for Deadly Class, it has been a lot. And so this one has this was a real good. I'm going to actually have to pick it up and look through it a little bit because I do not. I looked at these comics again for the first time this morning in a few months, and oh, yeah. And then that freaking last page, like, what's going to happen next? And really, that is as a sign of a good comic. What's going to happen next? Needing that answer is what makes comics so great. My number 7. Yes, I can count. My number 7 book of last year was Sex Criminals number 26, which, I mean, I liked a lot of the Sex Crims stuff that happened this year. And actually, I believe 2 issues of Sex Criminals were bumped off. Like, I made a list, and then I tried to integrate the December books. And 2 books from this last month knocked off 2 issues of Sex Criminals. So consider 11 and 12 also Sex Criminals. This was the one that dealt with trauma and identifying trauma and the idea that you don't have to be shot to have had a traumatic experience. It doesn't need to be large, world-bending, obvious trauma to mess you up. The little things can mess you up too, and it is like such a powerful statement. And also, it's Sex Criminals, so it's funny, it's clever. I don't think there's really anything too sexy in this issue, but sometimes it's sexy. And it also started rolling the ball on the storyline that would end Sex Crims, which was very, very satisfying to me. So, I'm going to miss this book. I feel like if you are watching this and you know of any great books that I'm not reading, please let me know, because I feel like a lot of the books that I've loved over the last 5 years have ended, or they're just mysteriously missing, like Southern Bastards, where it's just other priorities or sickness or whatever is causing that book to kind of be gone. Like, a lot of the books that I love, I'm not reading anymore, and so it's a bit more hollow comics at the moment. Like, there's a lot of great stuff, but a lot of the books that I've really hung my hat on in the last few years they're gone. So if you know of anything that's like, oh my god, like, that's a book that everybody needs to read. Like, I did not read Gideon Falls last year until the beginning of this last year, till the beginning of 2020, and I liked it quite a bit. I'll get to that in a little while. My number 6 book, though, was Lazarus Risen number 5. Also one of those books I always forget that it exists until it comes out because of the quarterly schedule to start and then the breaks that have happened because of unforeseen circumstances. Like shutting down the entire comics industry for 2 months. But Lazarus is it was great world building to start. And Forever is an amazing character. And I feel like it is pulling interesting strings as the story goes along. And the relationship, I would say this book, the first half or so of this book, really hit me because I loved the interplay between Forever and the other Forever, 8. And it's become such a touching relationship in such a short amount of time. And then you get to the destruction, and it is great, and it is vast, and it is wonderful. And I picked up the book not remembering anything about where the story was, because it had been a few months since the last one came out, and at the end I was like trying not to cry, because it just emotionally just wrapped up some powerful stuff, and just such a large, powerful sequence. at that family. God, I don't remember the family's name now, but the family that she. It's powerful stuff. Oh yeah, Gideon Falls ended, and again, I jumped on this one late, and I think binging it helped quite a bit. I don't know how much. I think I would have loved this book issue to issue, but it read really fast, and a lot of times the single issues didn't have. It wasn't a good book of the month review type of book, generally speaking. But the overall story has been just wonderful. So much of that is the art and the art direction. And Jeff Lemire is fantastic. I've liked a lot of his stuff. But is it Andrea or Andrea? Andrea? Sorrentino is doing next level stuff with his already next level skill in this comic. All of the upside down sequences, pretty much anytime you break the basic form of comics to tell your story, you get a little extra bump for me in my brain. And this one did it, and it did it, and it did it again. And this was very much a story that it was impossible to have a satisfying ending because the scope of it became so ungodly large. And I feel with all of that in consideration, it did a very good job. It just ended pretty much the only way that it could have, and was fairly satisfying. It wasn't a complete knockout of the park for me, but it was about as close as you can with the way that the story had to be told. I don't know what ending they could have had that would have been more satisfying, I guess is how I should say it. I don't even know if one exists. This is the ending that this story needed to have, and it felt complete. And I'm going to miss that book as well. And then there's a book that I thought was over, and it turns out it didn't want to die until 2020, and that's Stray Bullets, Sunshine, and Roses, which... Stray Bullets has been just... I jumped on after... from what I understand, Stray Bullets came out on a semi-regular basis, and then there was one issue left of the story, and it took something like a decade for that story to come out, that something happened, and it was just I don't know how to end it, or I don't know what Lapham's deal was, but he didn't finish the story until way later, and then immediately after that was just okay, now I'm going to do a bunch of short stories to kind of make up for the fact that I was gone so long. It's okay, this is the way to do it. And so he wrote an 8-issue story called Killers that I jumped on with, and it was wonderful. And it's okay, here's a book called Sunshine and Roses. They might have mentioned that it's going to be a little bit longer. It's okay, maybe it'll be 12 or 20 issues. And it just kept going. It had so many moments where I thought it might be over, and then another issue showed up on the stands, because I do not take care with what is coming. I like to be surprised when I get there, and I'm hoping I don't miss out on too much good stuff because of that. But man, Stray Bullets, the story completely outgrew what I was expecting it to be, and the weaving of Beth and Orson and Nina and Kretsch and Spanish Scott and all of these characters and all of the other ones that got introduced and left behind along the way. Rose and her kid and Love at the end, and I'm sure there's a bunch that I'm forgetting. There was that one with that weird cop guy, which I thought that was the last issue for a little while. But I haven't actually talked about the book. High action, satisfying ending, wonderful stuff. Wrapped it up in such a nice way that it allows for the previous stories, which took place later in the timeline, to make sense, which kind of a question mark for me. So, yeah, Stray Bullets. If you haven't read any Stray Bullets, pick up, pretty much anything. But Killers is a great place to start because it's a nice, small, self-contained. You can buy one book and get a whole story, and I feel like if you think you might like it, you're gonna love it. My number 3 book this last year, in 2020, the worst year, was Deadly Class number 43, which was the amp up to the oh my god, everything's happening issue. This one was when everything started happening, and it was just that much more frenetic. It had less of the horrifying outcomes that 44 had, but it had a lot more of the insane build beyond where I thought the story was going. And reading back through and looking through the comics that I've liked throughout this last year, this one stood out in just such beautiful, wonderful violence. And Yeah, I don't know how much more Deadly Class has left in it, but I'm going to be sad when that one's gone too, because Deadly Class has been outstanding when it's been coming out. So, yeah, and I missed that. There was like 2 or 3 episodes left in the show that I didn't watch, and I should go back and I should find where I can watch it and finish watching that show because it was great. Felt like they really nailed it, and in a better world, it would be The Walking Dead for the next decade, and would just, people would get sick of it after season 8 or whatever. We don't live in a better world. I guess 2020 was good proof of that. My number 2 book was Criminal Number 12, which, oh boy, wow, I feel like if you take the kind of action that I love in Deadly Class, and maybe not that ninja style crazy over the top, but you add an inner voice that has real pain and pathos to it, and this one, like, I think this came out like right at the beginning of the year too, and it just messed me up. It was wonderful, and yeah, I'm trying to think of even what to say about it, but just the moment, like, I think the big linchpin for me, the thing that takes it over the top from being like a great end to a very good story to the number 2 book of my number 2 book of the year, was the page where it's like Ricky realizes that this is going to be a terrible idea, but he's still got the gun in his hand, and it's just all of these things where it's just like he knows everything that he's doing is a bad choice, and it's all bad, and he knows he's going to do it anyway, and it is just such a horrifying place to be in, and you're stuck there for paragraph after paragraph, caption box after caption box, and it's powerful. So, yeah, Criminal is honestly just anything Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips do is always worth looking out to, and they ended this one with a bang. Sorry. Surprisingly, though, my favorite thing that I read in 2020 was Karate Prom by Kyle Starks, a free book that he put out, or Pay What You Want, that he put out on Free Comic Book Day to make up for the fact that Free Comic Book Day wasn't going to be a thing this last year. And it is the most wonderful mix of action and humor and emotion in a way that Kyle Starks tends to nail and very few others can. To go less than 40 pages and introduce characters that are so wonderfully told. And it's the story of a guy at a karate tournament who gets paired up with a girl, gets blown away by her beauty, or strucken? That is certainly not it. Struck by her beauty. Stricken? Oh no, I forgot how to words. That's bad when you're talking. But yeah, Beauty takes over him, and she just knocks him out in one shot, out of the tournament, and then, it's like, I gotta find this girl, talks to her, turns out, the jerkhole who he was gonna have to fight, is her boyfriend, and, okay, and that it's, I don't know, it's not her boyfriend, but why am I so bad at talking? They go to prom, they do a lot of karate fighting, it's really good. It is, this would be the most wonderful, 20-minute video in the style of old 80s action movies that you could ever see. This would be a wonderful pilot for a show that I would watch for seasons, forever. It's honestly, it's just good to read now. It's free. Like, if you Google Karate Prom, there's a Gumroad link, either immediately or close to the top of the results. Just go there, throw the guy a few bucks if you'd like to, and you should. And Kyle, honestly, read anything that Kyle Starks does. Kyle Starks is a freaking genius, and this is strangely one of his better works. It's at least it's the most easily recommend. Actually, that's not even entirely true. How do you not recommend? Sex Castle is just the easiest sell in the world. It's a Roadhouse, but he fights every other action movie guy, which, God, it's so good. But I'm talking about Karate Prom, and you can read it for free. You can read it for free right now, and you should. You should absolutely just put this on your phone or computer, take 5 or 10 minutes, enjoy the hell out of yourself, and then, if you like what he did, pay for it. And, maybe buy something else. And, or really dig into that legacy that he's putting behind. Like, he is doing amazing work, and he's not yet being mentioned in the same breath as, all of these other great writers. And did my computer just... No, okay, just shut down a little bit. Sorry, I thought I lost audio there for a second, because I've been talking for way too long. Yeah, he should be mentioned alongside the greats, and maybe he will be one day. But right now, I feel like he is a secret, and he shouldn't be. He should be revered. It shouldn't be like, oh my god, I'm so glad that Kyle Starks is getting to do a book with Erica Henderson, where they have assassins killing each other. Assassin Nation. Fantastic. Go check that out, too. Instead, it should just be like, oh yeah, like this is what he chose to do next, because he can do anything, because he's one of those guys who can just pick whatever project he wants, and somebody's going to publish it, because it's going to be brilliant. So, go read some Kyle Starks. Start 2021 off right. Start with Karate Prom. Go do it. And I'll see you with my weird video game series that I've been doing, Bootleg Gauntlet. That'll start up tomorrow. And if I don't see you again for comics till the end of next year, I'll see you the next year. I don't know what I'm going to do with this channel exactly, but most of my subscribers just like me because I did one card game video like 3 years ago. So, it's all lies. Everything on YouTube is just a lie. But, whatever. I like making videos. I like talking. So, but I should probably stop talking, because I'm seeing that I don't know how long I let this thing go before I started going, but I'm over 20 minutes, so I'm going to shut up now. See you in the other years. That's not a thing. I'm just going to cut before that. Alright, boy! Oh, almost fell down.